Good evening. It is Monday, September 13th, 2021, and I'll call this Committee of the Whole meeting of the Lansing City Council to order at 5:32. Ask the clerk to please take the roll.
Councilmember Spatafor?
Present.
Councilmember Dunbar?
Present.
Councilmember Hussein?
Here.
Councilmember Betts?
Present.
Councilmember Jackson?
Present.
Councilmember Garza?
Here.
Councilmember Spitzley? Councilmember Wood?
A quorum of the committee is present. Just as a reminder to those in present and in the audience, based on the recommendations from the Centers for Disease Control, City Council is requesting members of the public, city staff, and council members to wear face coverings at the meetings of the City Council and all committee meetings. With that, I will move on to our minutes and ask for a motion from our Vice President.
I would move the August 9th meeting minutes as presented.
The meeting minutes have been moved. Any discussion on the meeting minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Members of the public wishing to speak for public comment will have 3 minutes to do so on agenda items, except for those of you on the agenda, which I think you're all here for the agenda. So, see no one from the public, we will move on. And first up is going to be Mike Marriott, who is the Arts and Culture Commission Vice Chair. And I'll ask you to join us at the table. Yes, sir. Welcome.
Me. No idea if the mic's on. Is this?
There we go. Yep.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me here. So I'm Mike Marriott. I'm currently one of the co-chairs of the Mayor's Arts and Culture Commission with Clara Martinez, who runs the dance program at Everett. And I wanted to come by tonight and just speak a little bit and then answer any questions about the resolution to establish an Arts and Culture Commission for the city of Lansing. We've been doing a lot of work in the Mayor's Arts and Culture Commission to turn the volume up on all the artistic endeavors of city residents and people that work in the city and things like that, and helping the artists and creatives that are here be able to navigate better and make Lansing a place that artists and creatives want to come to. I can go in a little bit if you have any questions about the particular work we've been doing. But again, I would like to ask that we support establishing an Arts and Culture Commission. You look at a city like Nashville, Tennessee, they embraced their arts and culture. They're now Music City. You look at a city like Austin, Texas, another state capital that's embraced their arts and culture. They're now the live music capital of the world. I think we have a great opportunity tonight for this city to embrace Lansing's arts and culture and establish Lansing forever as the creatives capital. So with that, I'll answer any questions you guys have about our Arts and Culture Commission and go from there.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from members of the committee? Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you. Just for someone who's not all the way in the arts and culture community like I want to be, what are some of the challenges that you face as far as working with the city or just period in this area?
I think some of the challenges with working within the city are kind of, I think spot use would be one thing that I've heard, and this is just, I'm just going to go off the cuff with what I've heard from different artists. Creative entrepreneur, a lot of our artists are creative entrepreneurs. They've decided to go the LLC route as opposed to the nonprofit route. They want to be able to host events at places like Rotary Park and engage those spaces and things like that. One of the difficulties has been getting through the red tape to do that because they're creatives, you know what I mean? So if you're a professional dancer, you're spending 8 hours a day being your art. And so then when, it's, we have to fill out these forms and we have to do all these things, I think having guidance for that and help for that would be great. And I think that would be one of the things that an Arts and Culture Commission through the city would be able to help those creatives with. So that's one, and just more opportunity, for different events, different showings. We actually, as soon as I'm leaving here, we're producing a show tonight in South Lansing that's going to feature an artist who just moved to Lansing from New York to pursue his career. So Those I think would be helping those artists and helping that industry. I think that's another thing too, is looking at the arts as an industry here, and helping those artists be able to establish what they need to. And then our nonprofit arts organizations, helping them and turning the volume up on what they're doing. Because I think the next phase is going to be a lot of artists moving here from other areas. So.
Councilmember Dunbar.
Thank you. The commission, on the first page of the resolution or the ordinance proposal, it says 12 electors who are registered in the city of Lansing. But on the second page, it talks about one from every ward, and then at-large members appointed for 1, 2, 3, and 4 years respectively. Are you anticipating 8?
I think we were anticipating 12.
Well, but 8 at-large.
8 at large, yeah. From the city, though. We can look at that again. As far as if it would be 2 from each ward and then 4 at large,
Okay.
or 1 from each ward and then 8 at large.
So
We-
I sympathize, working in agriculture with farmers that don't know how to fill out a grant app, and you need staff to help them through MDART and whatever. I get that. My thought is that if you can't find artists that have the time to do that, will you get 12 on the commission? I don't know that we have a commission of any kind that has 12 members at this time. Could somebody address that? That seems like a hefty goal.
So in terms of those that I'm familiar with, it's always either 4 and 4 or 8 at large. And we do have one where we have 8 at large, and then we have 1 representative from another board. When I read that, I was a bit concerned too. That's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. And I didn't understand how you guys settled on 12. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that?
So I think there's right now on the current Mayor's Arts and Culture Commission, I want to say there's like 30 some commissioners, and obviously a lot of them won't be able to because they don't live within the city. We got to 12. I think it's just, we thought that not necessarily the artists that are individual artists working, but like, a representative from the Arts Council, a representative from the Lansing Public Media Center, and having that to where we didn't want to limit it to a certain amount. We wanted to have it and get as many people as in there that we could, who would be able, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room if you fill the room with smart people. So that's kind of what I think our thought was on that. But I can get you an actual printout from our governance committee if that's something that would be helpful for you.
I just want to make sure that it's feasible to do with all residents. I guess the other question that I have is, I know that, the mission isn't clear in the establishment of, so what is the mission statement right now of the existing mayor's council?
There's a vision and mission of, and I'll be honest with you, my storage is a little full with everything that I have going on, so I don't have the mission statement completely memorized at this point. But the mission is to foster the art, basically to foster the arts and culture in the city of Lansing. And the reason I think it's not as hammered down as we would like is because a lot of times things change. Like, we had a listening session in February of 2020. In March of 2020, everything we learned at that listening session went out the window because suddenly the pandemic was here. And so I think we've left it a little more vague to kind of be able to adapt. Artists and creatives are good at that. And so that's kind of the thing that we looked at, was being able to, adapt and, be able to address whatever comes up.
So thinking, okay, so you don't have to remember the entire mission. I'm not expecting that. But from your perspective, from what's been discussed, what would this commission do that isn't already done by the Greater Lansing Arts Council or other organizations? Because obviously help with grant writing is great, but this is going to be a commission that meets monthly, and there will be, do you anticipate that they would plan events or coordinate events? Would they foster a residency of an artist? I don't have a clear picture from this, other than a bunch of people who support art want to get together, what they would do.
So I'm going to go off kind of the work that we've done already, because I think it would be continuing that and turning the volume up on it. We hosted listening sessions, which I felt was important because we brought in a lot of artists. We wanted to we did it so that they could stream in, so they could show up, and they could tell us, hey, what do you want in the city you're going to be working and doing art in? So yes, we've had events like that in the past. The grant writing and those kind of things, a lot of times there's grants from the city. We've had discussions in a grants committee about, are these grants going to be open to just 501c3 nonprofits, or is this going to be for, is there going to be funding put aside for creative entrepreneurs who maybe are, I'll give you, for instance, Autumn Hopkins, who owns Oralee Gallery. It's an LLC. She's a graduate from a Lansing high school, went to Michigan State. She'll be walking across the stage on the 19th. She's decided to stay here and keep her business in Lansing. Helping her navigate that, and what does that mean postgraduate? Those kind of things that she doesn't have to become a member of an organization to learn. She can just go to the city and say, hey, help me, and there's a body there to do that. We've had an education committee, so they've had meetings on what does the education look like from like a Reach Studio Arts Center or, a bunch of other places like Cedar Street Art Collective. They're not a 501c3. How, what resources are there available for them? And that's something that I think, again, that this group could help with. And like I said, that's kind of, as I'm thinking of these coming up, I'm like, see, there's another thing that, are there subsidies for artists who want to have studio space? Is there creative housing? I know they just introduced something next door about the, creative homes for creatives and things like that. So I feel that's what it would oversee. And again, I can get you information of, what the work that we've already done and that's been successful, and some of the stuff we worked on that we were like, we need to tweak that and make it better.
And Mr. Mayor, let me just step in for a moment. There is a page, right now it's not an ordinance created committee, it's a commission of the mayor's office, which you very clearly articulated. But there is a page under boards and commissions on our website that has your 2019, 2020, and 2018 annual reports, as well as the minutes of all your meetings, and the mission and vision of the existing Arts Commission. And I think that's kind of, the idea was to make this a permanent fixture in the city, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think that's the main thing is just it's, as somebody who did come here who worked in New York City and did art there, man, the thing about Lansing that's just, it doesn't have that tradition of other cities that like a New York has or a Chicago. And so I think that's the other unique thing too is that, we can do some things in arts and culture here and do things the right way that maybe haven't been done the right way in other cities. And so, yeah, that was basically having something permanent that would be a resource for our creatives and our artists and our arts and culture nonprofits.
You all set? Thank you very much. Councilmember Betts.
Thank you, President Spatafor, and thank you, Mr. Marriott, for being here. I do want to say I certainly appreciate you being here and for all of your activism that you've done so far since you've moved into town. I have definitely, I was just in Rotary Park. You mentioned it a few weeks ago, and I saw that you had a whole program going for an art exhibit up there underneath the one of the buildings out there, and I definitely appreciate that. I also agree, this is about activating space, and especially in our public spaces, being able to make sure that we can get artists out there and, doing the things that they do best, dance, music, art, whatever it is. So I do want to say, if anything comes up where you need help as we're, getting this in place, if there is something that, you need help making sure that an event can play out, filling out forms and stuff like that. I think that all of the ward reps here and the at-large people are all interested in activating these spaces more. So feel free to reach out to this council anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, President Spatafor.
Sounds like Brandon just volunteered us all for something. I will say, Councilmember Dunbar, too, I'd be supportive of an amendment to strip that down to 4 at-large members, if that's what sound more reasonable. But we still have to do a public hearing on this and whatnot. This is just very introductory. We wanted Mr. Marriott here to explain the vision behind making this a permanent fixture. Oh yeah, Councilmember Spitzley.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I guess my question is, if they've decided in their wisdom to have a council of 12, why would we decide in our wisdom that that's too much for them?
And we can have that debate. I'm just,
Yeah, I think
I'm
we
open to
just-
that discussion. I didn't want to feel like we're just shutting
No,
it down.
I just think we need to be careful it's your ordinance, and if you think you need 12, it's not up to this council to say, no, you don't need 12, you only need 4.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I will push back and say it's never been really my experience in only 3 years that this council has ever said, no, it's not our place. So I'm just going to just put that out there.
Fair point,
All
Mr.
right.
President.
You've been here a little longer than I have, but. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a terrible table, so you're going to have to call my attention. Councilmember Jackson, then Councilmember Garza.
Just really quickly, one more thing. So, and the reason that the 12-8 debate, I mean, I'm interested in this debate because we often have boards and commissions that's not fully going. So then, if we're in violation of the ordinance, does that mean we get civil infractions? No, I'm just, as far as not enough people to fulfill the duties of 12. So what happens if there's less? I guess that's to the city attorney. Like, if there's less, does anything, like, they can still operate and all that stuff, right?
Well, we're going to make Brandon fill the roles. He volunteered. Well, I think that's a great question, and I don't know if Jim's ready to answer that. But we have 2 more weeks on this yet, right?
Just a quick answer. It's a quorum issue, but if there's a point where a board is really not functioning because it never can get a quorum, then, it's subject to being dissolved. I mean, it comes down to the quorum, and it's difficult to get that 7 for a quorum, so.
Right, it's just that it's our ordinance now, so.
Yeah.
We don't, we repeal our ordinance maybe, but I was just curious on like if because even if it's artists, like you said, are, people that do a lot with their stuff, like everybody just discussed, but I guess it doesn't have to be an artist. So if someday we can't have 12, what happens, I wonder?
Well, the other point is it's an advisory board. It doesn't make decisions, so.
Well,
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Could I chime in?
Absolutely.
I would say, and this is just me just thinking as me, so I'm not speaking for, but I'd rather have 8 than 0, if that makes sense. If 12 is just a no-go and it would be completely shot down at that point, then we'd rather have 8 than 0. But
Yeah, and I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think just there was a question, and I just wanted our council to know that there is time to debate it, and
Yeah.
we can do that. All right. Councilmember Garza, excuse me.
Real quick. Thank you, Council President. Good evening, Mr. Marriott. Thanks for being here today. A little off topic, but I'm just curious, what is the Art Commission, if anything? Are you guys doing anything with our children? Are you partnering with the Lansing School District to do any kind of events or programs to include them?
Yep, there's an education committee that co-chair Clara Martinez actually sits as the chair of that committee, and they've done a lot of stuff with education with youth, and then a lot of times too what we'll do is, like with the listening sessions and things like that, work with the different artists so that the professional artists that are here can work with the youth coming up, so they can, see somebody and say, like, I got into arts because I saw Gene Kelly and Singing in the Rain when I was a little kid, and that's why I do what I, you know what I mean, and that's what led me to here. And so I think there could definitely be a lot of initiatives in an education committee, and then whatever committees we can create off that to really engage that youth art talent that's here to keep that art talent here when they graduate or when they get done with college. The viability of, I don't have to go to New York, I don't have to go to Chicago, I don't have to go to LA, I can go to Lansing, and then I can work and perform and do all my stuff in Lansing, and I can shoot down to Detroit for a weekend and do something there, and shoot over to Grand Rapids and do something there, and shoot down to Chicago, 4 times a year. So I think that's kind of, I kind of elaborated a little more than what your exact question was, but yes, there's going to be a big initiative in getting some excitement around the youth and the artistic talent in this city, because it's amazing. It's an anomaly. I'm from Peoria, Illinois. They have 112,000 people. They are not pumping out the art talent that Lansing is. Not close. So.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Garza. We have follow-up from Councilmember Dunbar.
Thank you. I actually tried to find, the only thing that I can find online, and maybe we'll do this offline, and maybe it's the website. I found an agenda from the January 7th meeting, but nothing else online. So
I'll send you the link. It's right
Yep,
under boards and commissions.
I'm
It's a
looking-
very comprehensive page.
I'm on it. but it's either not loading here or I don't know what.
We can have IT help, but I do have it right here for you.
I'm glad. Okay. So the one thing that I would say before, when we do the public hearing, is to have, for my sake, maybe others too, an idea of the mission and the objectives of the council so that we can have, when they give public comment, that we can speak to that. And I love the idea of having the kids be a part of it as
Okay.
well. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
Sure, and since it's brought up, the vision of the Arts Commission is that arts and cultural initiatives be further developed and advanced as a driver for positive social and economic change and economic development, and in order to optimize the quality of life and experience for both residents and visitors in Lansing. And its mission shall be to provide expertise, resources, and support to enable and realization of the vision. Then there are several bullet points related to advising the mayor, but obviously that will change when it's a city ordinance. All right, that exhausts our questions for you, I think, and I know you have somewhere to be. So I thank you for making time. And
Thank you, guys.
We're going to set the public hearing for tonight. I'm looking at the clerk to make sure he can get notice out tomorrow for a 5-day window for next week. Is that all right, Chris? He says he thinks so. So the public hearing will probably be next week.
Next Monday?
Yeah, probably in this room, unless this one falls apart too.
All right, sounds good.
Okay.
All right, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
And I do need to apologize to my council colleagues. I told the superintendent 7 and told Sherry 5:30. So the superintendent will be here for the city council meeting, but not for the COW meeting. So we're going to skip that for right now and move on to the next item on our agenda, which is a resolution that is supporting the Lansing School District's efforts to impose a vaccine or testing mandate on their staff to keep our students safe. That is being put forward for discussion this evening and possible vote at city council. So when we saw this decision, it was thought it would be controversial in our community. It didn't turn out to be that controversial. The LSCA was very supportive of the move, and I wanted to show support from this body. So I had this resolution drafted and put it in front of this body. So I would offer it up for discussion. Actually, I'll throw the gavel over to our vice president. And I would move the resolution in support of the Lansing School District and Board of Education.
All right, there's a motion on the floor for the discussion. Oh, sorry. Councilwoman Spitzley, I missed you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. So does the city of Lansing have the same sort of, although I don't see it, you're saying that we're recognizing the Lansing School District for their COVID policy of mandating everybody be vaccinated, right? Is the city of Lansing doing the same thing?
That would be a question for Nick Tate.
Yeah, there
Nick,
he is right
go
there.
ahead.
Faith, can you turn on Mr. Tate's mic? There we go.
Is that better?
Yes.
Thank you. Is the question specific to vaccinations or?
Yes.
So the city is certainly aware of last week's federal mandate. We're reviewing it. We expect that there will be new federal as well as state rules. And once those rules come out, we'll have more information. But we do intend to follow the rules as they're published.
So is that a no?
We're waiting for the rules to come out.
So we don't have a mandate?
Correct. Currently, we do not.
Thank you.
All right, Councilwoman Dunbar.
Thank you. So we're gonna tell the district that they have to do it, but we are not doing it ourselves. The district could, I get that they want to do it, so we're supporting them in doing that. But I guess it seems a little hypocritical for us to even weigh in on that for their staff if we don't.
I totally accept that. This was not a pressure them. This was they were doing something, and I thought it was worth recognizing that they took a good positive step in protecting nearly 10,000 children in our community. This is not about.
I'm not disagreeing with it. I'm saying that if we're going to do that with the district, why wouldn't we do it with our own?
I wouldn't do it in this resolution, but if you want to have one drafted for next week, we can certainly discuss it.
Well, we can't have one drafted because we're not doing it.
Yeah.
To encourage, granted, bear in mind too,
So is this to provide some political cover for them doing it?
this is literally to say thanks. Not everything is a political move at this table.
No, I didn't say a move. I just meant to give them cover if they were, is that?
They weren't looking for cover. They negotiated with their unions and got support from a wide range of stakeholders, and I thought it would be a nice gesture to commend them for that effort.
the way I read it, with all due respect to everyone involved in this conversation, I read it that, someone from this body recognized what they were doing. They were appreciative of what they were doing, particularly as they are deeply immersed in public education and deeply immersed with children. And so they wanted to, as, an individual and hopefully as a body, just recognize them for their efforts in terms of securing the safety of not only the children, but also, vulnerable individuals within the staff. So with that being said, is there further discussion? All right, hearing none, there's a motion on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Passes 7-1. 6-1, sorry. And I pass the gavel back to,
Thank you.
Yep.
The next item is the aforementioned resolution introducing and setting the public hearing for Chapter 266 through .01 through .03, establishing the Arts and Culture Commission for the City of Lansing. Mr. Vice President, a motion would be in order.
yes, so moved, and this would obviously be for hopefully September 20th.
Let me double check that's in the ordinance or the resolution. Is it blank yet? Yeah, September 20th. Clerk gives us the thumbs up, so. Okay, there is a motion before us. Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Mr. Marriott, we'll see you next week. Break a leg tonight. All right, next up is a discussion on our budget priorities, and it's my understanding that Mr. Brower is here, and Sherry has gone through the resolution.
Actually, Mr. Brower
Oh,
responded to my inquiry on, I'm sorry. Mr. Brower responded to my inquiry. The current resolution that you had sitting at your seat tonight, highlighted in red, was an inquiry as to the budget priorities from last year, which one of those items were included or not included in the current budget that we are now in. That way, when you review it to make your amendment this time, you'll see what's already been done. You can either increase it, remove it, or make any amendments based on that.
and before I get you started, Jake, as you all are aware, committees have been looking at these, or should have been looking at these at a somewhat regular basis. They are due to the administration by October 1st, which means we will take action on this document next week because we are not having a special meeting. I repeat, we are not having a special meeting on budget priorities this year. So please make sure that your committees finish up the work, or if you have stuff you'd like to bring to the table next week, we'll do that at Cal. Appreciate it in writing ahead of time if possible. But Jake, you're here. Why don't you go ahead and go through this document, and then we'll do some questions.
Let's see. Can you hear me? Oh, excellent. Going down into the committee of the whole priorities. For priority number 2, sidewalk repair was funded at $100,000, gap closure at $125,000, for a total of $225,000 towards sidewalks. For major street funding on point 3, we allocated $1.95 million. For the federal surface transportation program, $1.3 million with a $1.3 million match. Local streets, $1.845 million, and bridges, $800,000. For point number 5, under the committee of the whole, we had a FOIA analyst added at $75,553 to provide information about the police department. And regarding the LPD business cards, that was not directly included in the budget. However, this cost has been estimated at $11,000. Would you like me to go into the other?
Why don't we start with, why don't we break it down by committee, and then we'll do questions by committee. So I see Councilmember Jackson, and then our Vice President Hussein.
Just really quick on the business cards. I'm trying to recall, was it that they were going to put, this is how you file a complaint, and then like some easy information following?
That is my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Vice President?
So the Public Service Board, as well as the Committee of the Whole, both asked the administration to emphasize and prioritize underserved areas. So my question is, has there been any effort to do that with regards to infrastructure improvement, whether that be repair, whether that be gap closure, and the like? Thanks.
I defer to the administration. That is a bit of a public service more than a finance question, although I do know that in other areas we're looking very strongly at equity in disadvantaged areas.
Nick, do you know?
I'm saying, let me take a little look at the notes I have here, and I can get back to you if that's okay.
Councilmember Betts.
Thank you, President Spatafor, and thank you, Director Brower, for being here. Great interim title there for now, so I'll keep calling you it anyway. You know, I guess my one comment on these in particular is we did ask for a doubling of the funding for sidewalk repair and local street repair, and that was a unanimous vote on this council. And I fully intend to bring something very similar to this body next week because, you know, this is something that every single person in every single ward is talking about, and it's something that we need to start fixing. And I do realize, you know, when it comes to the road funding, you made mention of, oh, well, we're getting these federal funds and things. This needs to be a priority from our general fund. Yeah, I mean, you know, at this point, looking at this, last year I was new to this, and we were, you know, I figured introduce a budget priority. The mayor is going to take the steps to do this, but this time around, I will be looking for money to make sure that we can do this because we're getting to the point now where people with disabilities are unable to leave their houses. I see people in wheelchairs rolling down the street because they can't go down the street in their sidewalk, and it's just getting to the point where, I mean, honestly, it's unacceptable that we allow our city to fall into disrepair like this. And we do know, the Public Service Department has told us that the longer we wait on doing these costs, the more and more expensive it is. And you know that as well. So I'm just, you know, letting you know that this will be a priority that we bring again. And this will be something that moving forward, we might have to make some adjustments on. So thank you again for being here and for addressing the council.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Betts. Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you. I just have to echo slightly what Councilman Betts said, that people in all wards do care and talk about this, that's for sure. But I kind of disagree because we know we don't have a lot of money. We know that it takes, last estimate was 5 times more investment now just to maintain our current you know, infrastructure status. And you know how you have all of the 0 to 10, green to red streets. So when we put in, and I'll support an increase because that is what people want, but when we put in a $500,000 increase, I hate to say it, I don't think it does too much based on how much things cost just to get like 1/10 of a road, neighborhood of sidewalks, but it is something, I will likely support it, but I just want to say that it's really bad, obviously. And the little bit of money we're putting in is not taking us where we want to go as far as infrastructure. So of course, we'll be hopefully relying on federal assistance someday.
Thank you, Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you.
All right, seeing none on Cal, if you could move on, please. Sorry, Councilmember Kathy or Mike.
Sorry about that. So I'm going to move below because I obviously agree with the sidewalk, the need for sidewalk funding. But in number 3, I mean, that's the number one thing that we hear, even though most people get that there's no money. But we had asked to try to use what we have to fill potholes on local streets, and particularly underserved areas. And I remember having that conversation, and I'm looking at the numbers that are over here, and they're a little misleading because we asked for adding 1.7 for a total of 5 million, and what we ended up getting was 1.845 for local streets. That's not even, I don't know, what, a third? It's about a third. So at major streets and federal STP dollars, this is dollars that are not from our budget. We were asking for it to come from our budget to do this because we know that these dollars are set aside for federal major street repairs and bridges out of that too. So that's concerning to me that local streets was only allocated 1.845 when we asked for 5.
Mr.
Yeah.
Brower, we can move on. At this point, I do want to just remind council, like, we approved this budget. We sat through months of hearings, discussions, and said yes to this budget. So I think we should commit it right here, if we have a problem with what came out of the process last year, to dig in deeper this year and make sure that our priorities are better reflected in the document that makes it to the mayor's desk.
If I may note, the majority of our streets funding comes from gas and weight taxes, and so we do contribute 1 mil of our property taxes towards roads in addition to the funding that we receive from the state. But the funding that we receive from this state is admittedly, by many folks' perspectives, much lower than the actual need that we have. But yes, thank you for your comment. We'll look into
Thank you.
all of your recommendations.
Move on to development planning, please. Move on to development planning, please,
Oh, yeah.
sorry.
Moving on to the Department on Development and Planning. For bullet point number 2, we reactivated the facade program at $175,000. Moving into bullet point 5, we did not end the LEAP subsidy, but rather continued the general fund contract with EDC for $300,000 for economic development services, and the admin fee for managing the brownfield plans is currently sitting at the $200,000 mark which accounts for the $500,000 you have in this policy document. Are there any questions with points in this section?
I see none, let's move on.
Moving on to the Committee of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. There was $500,000 requested for 4 FTE social workers. We did add 1 social worker for $92,615.
Okay, move on, please.
And that mostly concludes our additions and changes to the budget. I've been meaning to reach out to the IT department on training modules. I do know that they're working with numerous departments to standardize procedures and training across the city. So that's potentially in development.
I know the security ones are more interesting now than they used to be.
Yes. Having done them, yes.
Right. Okay, so what we need from this council, by Thursday, preferably Thursday, close of business, anything that you'd like incorporated into a document that will sit in front of us at COW, please send to Sherry, either through your committee or through directly to Sherry, and she'll have it in a revised document. And we will take a look at that at COW next week and then vote on it to send to the administration as our sort of considerations as the budget's developed and presented to us in March, right?
Yep.
All right, I'm getting the hang of this. I do see Councilmember Garza does have a question, though.
Thank you, Council President. Mr. Brower, thanks for being here today. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So under the public safety, I'm assuming that we never received any of the traffic speed wagons, portable speed bumps, or can you confirm that?
Those weren't included to my knowledge.
I didn't hear you?
Those weren't included to my knowledge.
Okay. Well, just so you know, we met with public safety this week, and last week, and this is something that's getting approved again. So I would really like to see these. I mean,
Okay.
This is very important for traffic calm in our streets. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say one thing that we did have that we ended up doing as a final budget was the Expungement Clinic. And I spoke with Amanda O'Boyle, and she said it was phenomenally successful, the first one. They had 277 online registrations and 50 paper registrations. She says about conservative, with for a total of 327. They were able to find, of those who came in, 58 individuals who were eligible for expungement, 4 of which were marijuana claims. In addition to that, numerous motions for set-asides were drafted, which the city attorney can explain later, for completion of fingerprinting, leaving individuals only to obtain copies of certified conviction to complete an application for expungement. So we had to turn people away, and I don't really view that as a failure, rather a success, as the number of people who needed this service were able to get it. So Just as an example, as, you know, good things going on. But that was Friday, and I wanted to congratulate the Office of City Attorney for that good work on that budget issue from last year. Well done. So, we are going to.
Can I stop you real quick?
Oh,
Can
yeah,
you
I'm
just
sorry.
remind me, because I've heard from many people, some that were actually turned away, and I viewed it the same way. That being said, remind me, are they quarterly, semi-annually? What did we fund?
We don't have a plan right now for doing it. This has been, the parking lot was amazing. You had to be there to see that. And we had support from the mayor's office. Nick was there taking all the intakes, and it was just a great team effort. But we don't, now that we see the stats, I saw them this morning, we'll look at future events, yes.
And I know when we had put the request in, we wanted a report back from the OCA to us to determine whether we should keep doing it. And I think the answer is yes. There's a need out there. So, okay, that is it, Mr. Brower. Excuse me. We got Brower, Brewer. Jake, thank you very much for being here this evening. That concludes our agenda for the evening. But I do have one motion, and I'd like to hand it over to the Vice President for a moment.
President Spada? before you have
Yes,
the floor.
and I'm not sure, do I need a motion if I'm the chair to discharge something from this committee? Yeah. Okay, well, I'm just going to let you all know that I am discharging the ordinance to add Chapter 256, Sections 256.01 through 256.04 to the Committee on Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. This is the ordinance that would create the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Board and Commission. There are 2 resolutions that have been put forward, one for the administration, one from Councilmember Betts. So we're sending them to a committee to merge and find the best way forward on that. So that'll be discharged and referred to the Committee on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
We appreciate the transparency. You have the gavel.
At 6:13, we are adjourned.